Alright, this lecture is going to talk about two different types of meter. The two types of meter we're going to talk about are classified by how each beat is subdivided. So whether there's 2 beats in a measure or 8 beats in a measure, that's not going to matter so much as how much each of those beats is subdivided. There are two options. You can either divide it by 2, which would be an even number, or you can divide it by 3, an odd number. You couldn't divide it by 4 because that's really 2 times 2, and that would be the same thing as a simple meter. When it's divided by 2, we call that simple. When it's divisible by 3, that we call that compound. Time signatures are written based on these subdivisions and how many beats are in each cycle or measure. So while the different types of meter don't matter how many beats are in each measure, the time signature does. And we use special words for that. We use duple for 2, triple for 3, or quadruple for 4. Simple enough. Let's talk simple meter. The beats in a simple meter are subdivided by 2. Some examples of those would be a march, or you could do a 3-beat pattern like a waltz, or even 4 beats per measure. It doesn't really matter. As long as each beat is divided into 2 equal parts, you have simple meter. To set up a simple meter time signature, what you need to do. The top number will tell you the number of beats in each measure. That's typically between 1 and 4, but it can be anywhere from 1 up to 1,000, really. That would be unlikely, but it's possible. And then the bottom number is going to tell you what type of note gets 1 beat. In most instances, this will be a quarter note, making the bottom note, the bottom number be a 4. Couple examples of this: 2 quarter notes in each measure would be 2/4 time, and we would classify that as a simple meter, duple, since there are 2 beats per measure. So 2/4. Looking in the top example there, you can see there are 2 quarter notes in each measure, 2/4. In the bottom there, you also see that that can be a combination of 1/8 notes, 1/16 notes, or even 1/2 note in each measure, or a combination of notes and rests. As long as there's 2 beats in a measure and the quarter note gets the beat, that's a simple duple. All we need to do now is keep adding beats. 3/4 classified as simple triple, 3 quarter notes in each measure, and those quarter notes are divided into 2 1/8 notes. That's very evident in this example. Quarter note, 2 1/8 note group, 2 1/8 note group. In 4/4 time, you've got 4 quarter notes in each measure. That would be classified as simple quadruple. Again, that can be any combination of notes and rests, 1/16 notes, it doesn't matter. As long as the total beats add up to 4, and those are 4 quarter notes. For compound meter, the beats are subdivided into 3s. You might say that this has more of a triplet feel. So a couple examples of that: if we had 2 beats per measure, but each of those beats was divided into 3, this is what it would sound like. Or for instance, if we had 3 beats per measure, we're going to have that same feeling to it. Or like just the same thing with 4/4 time. 4 beats per measure. The space between each beat is divided into 3 equal parts. Setting up compound meter time signatures is a little bit more complicated. The top number is no longer telling us the number of beats in a measure. It tells us how many subdivisions are in each measure. There's a good reason for this, because quarter notes are worth 2 1/8 notes, and they're not worth 3 ever, because it just doesn't work that way. So we can't say that there are a certain number of beats in there. We have to tell the subdivisions, and it's almost always going to be a multiple of 3, because each beat is subdivided by 3. So we're looking at 3, 6, 9, 12. The bottom number tells us which type of note gets 1 subdivision, and that's usually going to be an 1/8 note. So to write a compound meter time signature, you start with the bottom number as 8. Then you determine the number of beats in a measure. So if we had 2 beats per measure, we'll take that as an instance. That's not subdivisions, that's beats. We're going to multiply that by 3. 2 times 3 would equal 6. The product will be the top number. So 8 is our bottom number, 3 times 2 is our top number, or 6. If you're reading a compound meter, you have to do the opposite. If the bottom number is 8 and the top number is divisible by 3, that's how you determine how many beats are in each measure. The common note value for receiving 1 beat in a compound meter, therefore, is the dotted quarter note, because that would be 1.5 beats, or the equivalent of 3/8 notes. Some examples of common compound meter. 6/8. When you look at that, you have to divide the top number by 3. 6 divided by 3 is 2. So we know there are going to be 2 beats per measure, and the dotted quarter note is going to get the beat. In the first measure, you can see that very clearly. You've got 2 dotted quarter notes for 2 beats of 6/8. Second measure, dotted quarter note and the dotted quarter rest. And then the third measure, you can see very clearly there, 3/8 notes per group, classified into 2 groups of eighth notes. E, 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 D, D, D. Very clearly shows the 6/8. And then the last measure, you've got a combination of quarter note plus an eighth note for the first beat, and then a dotted quarter note for the second beat. For 3 beats in a measure, that would be 9/8. 3 times 3 is 9. In the example there, you can see combinations of dotted quarter notes, combinations of beams of 3/8 notes, and even in the middle measure there you see a combination of 2/8 notes and 2/16 notes to make up the second beat of the 3 beats in 9/8. And then probably the other one that we'll see here in most literature would be 12/8. That would be 4 beats in each measure. The dotted quarter note gets the beat. There's a total of 12/8 notes per measure, but really those don't each get their own beat. They're grouped into groups of 3 for a total of 4. The dotted half note is something you also commonly see in compound meter, because that would equal 6/8 notes, or 2 dotted quarter notes. So here's just a quick recap. Simple meter, the beats are divided into 2 equal parts. Simple duple is 2/4, simple triple 3/4, simple quadruple 4/4. Compound meter, the beats are divided into 3 equal parts. Compound duple would be 6/8, compound triple is 9/8, and compound quadruple is 12/8.